Okay, so hi James.
Hello, Charlie.
When you come up in March to Aberdeen, you're going as part of the weekend workshop, you're going to be doing some chanting sessions.
Yeah.
And to ask you a little bit about what we might be doing in those sessions so that people get an idea of what will be involved in an hour of chanting.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the lovely things about coming to Aberdeen is that you do this regularly. So it's part of what you do on a weekend. So we decided, I think, well, definitely since the last time and maybe one of the previous times, to also involve some Sanskrit recitation and chanting practice in the program. So before we start Saturday, Sunday morning, there'll be this hour where we can do some Sanskrit recitation. And so, yeah, the question can come out, what is that? Why would I want to do that? And so I think you've been chanting for quite some years now, Charlie, yeah?
Inspired by you, yes. I think
Right.
my experience of chanting was 2016, and we did a group. It was with Matthew Sweeney, and this is a teacher who's been teaching for a very long time. And I remember him saying to the group, very vulnerable, said, I don't feel confident leading this, so we're going to just do this together, and we'll do it with the music. We'll just play a track and we'll all sing along together. And I just found it really moving. Like, it was a very powerful experience. And then I was singing to myself in the car and things like that, and in the shower, the kind of secret things. And then we did workshops with you where I sang songs I'd never come across before, ones that were in English, and um, different melodies. And some of them get stuck in your head like little earworms. You find yourself singing them at other points. And it just kind of spiraled, just
Mm.
became
Yeah,
a
it's interesting, Charlie, because similar for me that I'd always enjoyed singing. I've sung in many languages, and then when I started to really explore yoga, this was when I was living in Thailand, well, more than 20 years ago now, and I was doing a yoga teacher training program. It was actually the pilot program for a teacher training, and our teacher, similarly, I mean, he was confident to lead, but he invited us into the experience of kirtan, and he'd spent some time at a Shivananda ashram or Shivananda yoga center and learned quite a lot of chants, many simple ones that you could do a cappella. We didn't have a harmonium there; it was just call and response chanting. And I'd been singing in lots of languages by this point, and I enjoy singing. But we sang these Sanskrit mantras, and I was like, whoa, wow, this is amazing. I definitely want to do more of this. And then I started practicing. He gave us, if we wanted, we had this Shivananda chant book, so it had lots of beautiful chants and mantras in it. And so, and he'd shared like a dozen with us in the first couple of times we did it. So I started practicing quite a lot. And it wasn't that long before I started sharing the practice. So, I really took to it and it became part of, I mean, I've been singing, I used to sing every day anyway. So I substituted pop songs for Sanskrit mantra and felt the benefits immediately. And so Samskrita, not Sanskrit, but literally the Samskrita means well made, well done. So this language of the Indian tradition is a language that it's well made. It lives up to its name, like so many things do in the Sanskrit language. Because the words in Sanskrit, there's the idea there's a greater correspondence between name and form in Sanskrit than in many other languages. It's got a very strong onomatopoeic quality to it. But many of the words are not arbitrary. They have this direct correspondence with what they are invoking or evoking or just representing. So when we sing or say these words, we are invoking the energy. So when we sing, for example, Ganesha, Gana means a member or a part, but it also means group. So it's a member of a group and the whole group. And Isha is the energy that can lead and guide and harmonize and bring together that group. So when we say Ganesha, we're already inviting this energy of yoga, this energy of harmonization. So my experience when I first sang the Sanskrit mantras was like, wow, I feel good. I like this feeling. I would like to feel like this more of the time. I would like to carry this feeling into my day-to-day activities. So when I have to face difficult situations, stressful situations, when I have to interact with the person who it's not so easy to interact with, I can feel this greater harmony within myself, and then meet that situation from a steadier, more congruent center. And so I began practicing recitation. And then shortly thereafter, I met the man who became my first meditation teacher. And he was a student of Kashmir Shaivism, a direct student of the great Kashmiri master Swami Laxmanju, and previously had been a direct student for many years of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and he'd had lots of teachings from them, and along his journey he had learned to recite many things. And he began teaching us to recite some Kashmiri hymns and Bhagavad Gita. And so from pretty early in my yogic explorations, I was bathing in this Sanskrit sound. And I noticed that when I would recite, it would have this beautiful impact in my being, in the field of my experience. When I would do Sanskrit recitation, I would feel more grounded, I would feel more balanced. It would wash things away. So my mother, she died a long time ago, but she came to some kirtans and she said, oh, it's a bit like bathing in sound. And she's not the only person who's said that over the years. But, I remember it because my mom said it. And it does have this quality because sound, it penetrates, it pervades. Let's say we've got some little kink in the body. Something's a little bit out. We can work with yogasana, we can work with movement practices, we could get a massage. All these things could help tremendously, but it's also possible that it doesn't quite get it out. But when we sing or when we recite, we resound. That resonant quality isn't confined to one part of our body or one part of the field of our awareness. The sound will fill the space. It will reach from wherever we produce it, and it will resonate through every chamber of our being. And there's another beautiful thing about Sanskrit, and it doesn't matter if we are already particularly familiar with Sanskrit or not. In the Sanskrit language, one of the ways it's so well made, so well structured, is that we have 5 positions of articulation in the throat, like g, for example. And then we have a little bit further up, palatal sound, like sh, for example. And then we have cerebral sounds where the tongue moves up towards the roof of the mouth, like n or t. But we could also have a n or t on the teeth, like a dental sound. We have labial sounds. So if we say, for example, Ganapataye, another way, Ganapati is another name of Ganesha, Ganapataye, the tongue is moving through these 5 positions. G, n, p, t, ye. So g in the throat, n, the tongue's going up towards the roof of the mouth, p on the lips, t on the teeth, and ye in the palatal area. So as we just make that one name, we're sending the sound up into different parts of the brain, from which it can then cascade down through the rest of the brain, i.e. the body, through the nervous system, and send its harmonizing vibrations through the whole system. And so, I don't know about you, Charlie, or people listening, but I would like to live in a place of sustainable good vibrations. And a place of sustainable good vibrations is actually the classic definition of yogasana. In the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali describes yogasana as sthira sukham asanam. Asana is a seat not just of the physical body, but of the field of our awareness that is sthira, steady, and sukham. So sukham literally means, su means good, agreeable, and kam means space. So sukham means easefulness, but literally it means good space. So sustainable good space. What is space filled with? It's not empty, it contains vibration. So asana is a space, a state of sustainable good vibrations. So if we want a better asana in our life, we can work with sound. And another lovely thing about Sanskrit sounds, once we get introduced to them, they're not particularly difficult because we've got a map, position of articulation, make the sound. We might make combinations of sounds we've never made before. So of course, like any new, it's a muscular thing, it's muscles of the voice apparatus. It might take a little bit of training, but not so much. And relatively quickly, we can start to feel the lovely, nourishing, supportive benefits of making these sounds and inviting these vibrations that are invoking harmony to resound through the core of our being. So on the weekend, we will dedicate that first hour of the time we meet so people can join at 10 o'clock when we start, or they can come for the hour beforehand. And in that first hour, we will practice the sounds of Sanskrit. It's a very simple yoga practice, beautiful practice. Or straight away, you'll notice, oh, it has some energizing quality. And then we might do a little bit of singing, some kirtan songs, or we might, well, this is what we're going to do this at one point. We're going to learn a Sanskrit hymn, a simple hymn. And we'll use this to practice the sounds of Sanskrit and give ourselves a chance to recognize, this is actually very accessible. And I can use this practice to prepare myself for what I'm going to do in the rest of my yogic practice or my yogic explorations. And this is a theme that also recurs through yogic practice. Traditionally, if one is studying the Upanishads, for example, there's usually a peace mantra associated with that body of teaching, and it's recited at the beginning and the end of the study period. If people, like I know at Love Yoga, some people do Ashtanga Vinyasa practice, and at the beginning there is a mantra. And the idea is the mantra is a practical means to basically remind ourselves what we are about, remind ourselves why we're going to do this practice and what we are aiming towards. Because yoga gives us all these tools, all these resources to work with. Any tool can be used as a weapon, and some weapons can be used as tools. Yoga is a shastra, and in the Indic tradition they say, don't make your shastra a shastra. A shastra is a weapon. No, let our study of the shastra, let it lift us up and help us become more established in harmony. So when we're using yogasana, for example, if we go into our practice with ambition or with aggression, we'll probably just stoke our ambition and aggressiveness. We're not going to come to greater peacefulness, balance, harmony, and integration. But if we want to cultivate skillfulness, competence, sensitivity, like holistic intelligence, awareness, balance, harmony, then if we do some simple practices that orient us towards that energy, it's very helpful. And mantra can do this. Because even if, like, sometimes people say, I don't know what I am saying. I don't understand these words. And I studied French and Italian for my first degree, and I speak a few different languages, and I've lived amongst different languages. But I speak it, I use English in my work a lot. It's my native language. And sometimes I think, I use English words. I don't quite know what they mean. And sometimes we use words in ways that are contrary to their deeper power and deeper intent. There's a lot of words that have got a bad press in recent times, and this changes with with fashions and trends. But there are some words that I feel get used in ways that distance us from their real power. They get used rather casually. And I've actually been writing a book about this. And because yoga is one of those words. Yoga is a four-letter word. And many four-letter words, people use them casually. And we get distance from their true power and import. So when we do Sanskrit mantra or invocation or recitation, we are working with words or sounds that are encoding or inviting harmony. These words are not being used casually or in a way that is pointing away from the true depth. Rather, we're using the words very skillfully, very appropriately. We're working with the meaning and pointing towards the aim of practice, which is greater awareness, greater balance, greater integration, greater harmony. And when we do a recitation practice or a kirtan practice, a singing practice, one thing I love about this is it very readily invites yoga. What do I mean by that? Yoga means doing whatever we're doing with all of ourself. And also, in a certain sense, getting out of our own way. By which I mean allowing ourselves to go a little bit beyond the known, to look a little bit perhaps beyond the habitual ways of looking. So when we sing, straight away, it's a physical act. It's an energetic act. It's a sensory and sensual act. our mind and our intellect is involved. We've got to focus on the sounds, the words, the melody, and it's got this emotional quality. So very readily, kirtan or recitation invites all members of the gang of our being to participate in what we're doing. And so then it gives us a reference for what yogic engagement with life feels like. What does it feel like to be fully into what I'm doing? With the mind, a willing participant in the magnificent orchestra of our being, rather than the tyrant who's trying to do things by itself and dictate what the other powers can or cannot do. Because if we try to sing with our mind, it's not going to be the same beautiful experience if we just allow ourselves to sing with this united effort of our senses, our bodies, our breath, and all the other factors that we bring to life as human beings. So for me, recitation and singing practices, they're super empowering because they remind us of the beauty, the harmony that is available when we bring all of ourselves to the current situation, whatever it is. And one other thing, when we do it together, it invites us to connect at a level that is before, beneath, and beyond ideas. So when we come together and we sing together, it doesn't usually take very long. A harmony starts to emerge. It doesn't matter if we're trained singers. It's not like we're singing some beautiful 3-4 part harmony like a chorus or a professional choir. No, no, no. But just if we sing together or we recite together, a harmony will emerge as if by magic. But this is the magic of the intelligence of life that is not artificial. That is a natural phenomena of us as sentient beings. And when we sing together, a harmony will begin to emerge. You can see it, like, for example, at a sports match sometimes. There's sometimes you hear that people, like I went to university in Cardiff, and when people sing the Welsh national anthem at a rugby match, it'll make people's hair stand on end. But all these people, they didn't practice. That particular 80,000 didn't get together 10 times in the previous weeks to just check they're all at the same pitch. The harmony emerges. And similarly, when we sing with a few of us or a big group, even if it's just a few of us, this harmony will emerge. And that gives us a lived, cell-deep, authentic experience of our capacity to co-create with others something quite magnificent and something different, great than what we'll be able to create just by ourselves. So to me, it's very empowering. And in the times we live in where it's quite easy to get a little bit isolated, these types of practice, they're so good for fostering this awareness of the real potential of simple human community, of gathering together to work together. And I was keen to ask you about that, Charlie, because I know you've been running the recitation and chanting classes regularly now, and you mentioned now it's a good few years you've been doing it. What do you experience as kind of, why do you keep doing it? What motivates you to offer that every week?
Well, I think something that might summarize something you were just talking about with it are that singing and chanting has personal benefits, to yourself. If you do it on your own, you can feel the benefits.
Yeah.
But you also get different benefits when you do it in a group. So there's this dual thing of doing your own has this inner working that's going on, but then also in a group there's this different experience. And it's very powerful, like you said, even if it's a small group or a big group, it's different, and different energies come out, and depending on your mood, it changes how you sing, and then singing changes your mood, and that group experience I think is very powerful. So that's probably why I do it, because I love singing on my own. That's something I'll do every day, and then but I only maybe get it to do it occasionally in a group, and that's I will seek out now. And I remember in lockdown when we just had a screen, and Zoom didn't really let you all sing together because it did that thing. I tried to have just one person speaking. And I remember the first time we came back in person, and I did an at the start of the class, and I heard everybody back, and I like tears were rolling down my face because I could hear people sing with me.
Mm.
And it was just one of those moments where I really realized how important being able to sing together is.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of connection that we don't get in the same way, with other activities. Singing together has a different quality.
Yeah, and I think as well, I'm reminded as you're saying that, Charlie, like, so back in 2022, I was involved in a chorus project in Ireland. And Evelyn, the woman who was leading the project, she's a trained opera and bel canto singer and entertainer. Like, she's done all sorts of work with song and music. And this was a community project, so it's not professional music. Well, there were some professional musicians involved. But Evelyn told us one time at a practice session this beautiful story. And so she's a native of Ireland, but she's lived in a few different countries. And she spent many years in New Zealand. And she told us this story. She was there on the west coast of Ireland, looking out at the Atlantic Ocean. And she sees a seal. And she hears the seal's call, the seal's like singing. And then this song comes to her. And she sings it to the waves, to the ocean. It's beautiful. It's very simple. She just goes like, And it continues like this. And it's lovely to sing it all together. And that's what she had us do. And then she said, so this song came to me. And the next day, I get a call from like she calls him her brother in New Zealand, her Maori brother. So she lived with this community. And he's a master musician and involved in so many uses of music in the community. And he says, yes, sister, I heard the call. Nice song. And she's like, what do you mean? Yeah, I heard it. It's good. You heard it? Yeah, yeah. Have you shared it with your people yet? I'm sorry for my terrible Kiwi accent, but uh, and then he says, yes, sister, of course I've heard. He says, right now, I'm standing on the coast too. I'm looking out at the Pacific Ocean, and I can see whales today, and I can hear their song. And what a blessing it is to hear their song. And he says, sister, the whales are the great mammals of the ocean, and their song helps harmonize the ocean, and which means it's helping harmonize the planet. We, human beings, have become the great mammals of the earth. But sister, so many humans in so many parts of the world have forgotten to sing their song. And our planet is missing it. Our Mother Earth is missing our song. She wants to hear us sing. And only a few generations ago, most people would sing together most days. And something, I don't know what's happened. There are some obvious factors. One is the terrible lies that maybe, I don't know, maybe the majority of children heard. They heard something like, oh, be quiet. Or you've no voice for singing. Or they were at school and they're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and there's some brutal selection process, and like somebody just sing something, and the child just sings, okay, you're terrible, go over there. Oh, you can be in the choir. Or maybe a really gifted singer. Like I had this example recently, a woman with a beautiful voice. Oh, you'll never be a soloist. And so then it created this phobia of singing in public. And when she does sing in public, everybody's hair stands on end. But for so long, she's been scared to do it because of these deep false imprints. And, even more ridiculous. And I witnessed this personally. 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds being told, oh, you've no rhythm because you can't dance the rumba or whatever it is because you haven't been taught it. But all the kids are there, all the 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, and their hearts a beating. Because like everything else in existence, we have rhythm. We are pulsating creatures. But the teachers oh, you've no rhythm. No, no, no. That's more than a lie. That's worse than a lie. It's a lie that's so toxic because it's contributing to the severance of this connection to the deepest parts of our human intelligence. We are pulsating cyclical creatures. And the world we live in, human beings have become, there's so many signs, we've become disconnected from the true power of human intelligence, of natural intelligence, which all comes from pulsation and cycles and the amazing symbiosis that we are walking embodiments of and that we see all around in all of nature. And so singing our song, yoga is a recovery project. It's a remembering, it's a rehabilitation project, it's a healing endeavor. And we've all been wounded in this world. This is the nature of life. It's been the nature of life for gazillions of years. But there are certain types of wounding that I think are perhaps more prevalent in our times than maybe they were before. And one of those wounds relates to rhythm and harmony. Because what is human culture and human entertainment? It means gathering around a fire or gathering in a circle, singing, dancing, sharing songs, sharing stories, sharing food, sharing fellowship. And every culture did this. So whether we came out of a womb in some cold northern European climate, or we came out of the womb in Brazil and they were playing the samba in the room next door, or in some part of West Africa where they were doing some big dance when we popped out, we are all from people who sang and danced. It's part of our human heritage wherever we came out of the womb. And so to gather together and sing and or recite, it connects us to something that to me is very intimately woven with some of the subtler, deeper aspects of our human intelligence that relate to our thriving, our wellness, and our capacity to move through life in a way that is nourishing and evolutionary, meaning that it helps us grow, that build on our inheritance. If we get disconnected from that rhythm, from that harmony, it's very difficult to create as effectively, as efficiently, as beautifully as we could. So singing and reciting for me, I love the practices, but I find them tremendously healing, tremendously empowering. And one of the lovely things is they help give this reference. It's of a medi-state, the state of being wholly into what I'm doing. And this being wholly into what we're doing, it's not just a nice idea. When I'm wholly into what I'm doing and I fully inhabit the present moment, there is no space for regret. The possibility of toxic karmic, or let's just say karmic residue is reduced. But toxic residue too, like that coulda, shoulda, woulda, and then I'm going to shut all over myself because I didn't do it how I needed to. No, if I give myself to it, then I'm going to learn from it. And I'm going to be nourished from that experience one way or another, even if it's not the best experience. If I've really chewed it thoroughly, I've entered into it, I give myself the chance to really digest it and assimilate its lessons, its benefits, even if those lessons and benefits might be, I need to do things slightly differently next time. So for me, the recitation practices, the singing practices, they are perhaps one of the most, if a person gives themselves to this practice in a short order of time, one can quite readily begin to notice, this is impacting the way I orient to difficult situations and beautiful situations. Yes. So
I have one other question I was going to ask you about, which is I know that in your workshops you do a combination of songs that are in Sanskrt and in English.
yeah.
Have some Arabic words in from memory. So what are your thoughts on needing to know the meaning of the song or the words that you're singing?
Yeah. So It's very interesting, Charlie. Like, so recently, for example, I have experienced people from the same cultural background who don't want to, they just want to sing. I don't talk about, I just want to go into the sound. And I know I don't know all the intricacies of the meaning, but but I think the people who often have that attitude, they have a clear confidence that what they are singing is helping them move in the direction they want to move. And then I know other people from the same cultural background who say, oh, I love it when you give me that bit more sense of what it's pointing towards. And then and then I'll sing with recently I was with a man from Denmark, and he's sung and recited before, and he came to a kirtan, and in the kirtan that day, I gave a little bit more explanation of some of the songs and some of the mantras we were singing. He said, oh, I love that, because then I could like give even more to it. So there's an interesting thing that can sometimes happen as well. Sometimes when people sing a medicine song, because you can do kirtan. Kirtan, what does it mean? It means glorification. So when we sing a kirtan song, it's reminding us of the glory of being alive. And any song that is pointing in directions of deepening harmonization can be a kirtan song. So sometimes I sing songs in yeah, like you mentioned, several different languages. And sometimes it'll only be Sanskrit, but it depends on the context. But sometimes people feel more confident and they're able to let themselves go deeper into the practice when the words don't have such immediate associations. So in the yogic, this is an intrinsic part of the yogic understanding, is that language carries association. So as soon as I say a particular word in English as a native speaker, that word often comes laden with all sorts of associations. They'll be different for different people. Common words like, just a word like mind, it means different things to different people. Or mention a place or a person. And some people might have very positive associations. Some people maybe unpleasant associations with the same word. And so sometimes I've also experienced with sharing this type of work around the world for now more than 20 years. Like in Spain, for example, if I sing Spanish songs, some people love it, and some people, oh, I'd just rather sing the Sanskrit songs. And so I feel that the key is the person's confidence that they are inviting something that is appropriate for them, that is proper for them. So the true word of proper or appropriate, it's proper of the self, yeah? So for me, all the Sanskrit songs or chants that we sing, they're very proper because they are invoking energies that are always potential within us. We're not singing to something just outside ourselves. Yes, we sing to gods or deities. But what are these gods or deities? They are also archetypal representations of potentials within ourselves. So when we sing to Ganesha, we can imagine this as we're singing to an energy beyond ourselves of harmonization. But we also have a Ganesha capacity inside ourselves. So we're invoking that. So I think the key is that it feels proper. And this is this is maybe an unusual thing to do. Don't have to be proper, but again, that word has associations. But what I mean is, I have a friend in the US who's a song catcher. Hundreds of songs come to him, these beautiful medicine songs, and in English. And he talks about singing one's proper song, and he means the song that's the authentic expression of your own heart. Now, there's a beautiful thing when a song comes to us and it comes through us, it's often very proper. And sometimes when we're singing along with somebody else's song, it doesn't quite have the same resonance. But the thing about the Sanskrit chants and the Sanskrit mantras is they're very proper to the energy of harmonization. And we're not singing to something outside ourselves. We're singing to innate human capacities. As a human being, we have a capacity to reconcile things that would seem impossible to reconcile. We're holding together all these amazing different constituent parts of ourselves already. We have a great capacity for yoga, even if we don't recognize it. And singing like this can help us recognize it. So I would suggest as well, another thing about, do we know what the words mean? From the yogic perspective, to know what something means is to be established in it. To truly understand something means to stand in it. So people's ideas of knowledge or knowing or understanding are often very partial. And the idea in yoga is to come to embodied knowing. And the way to do that is by practice. So if we want to know what the words mean, let us explore them. So we have to have a slightly adventurous, explorative, seeking spirit, this spirit of inquiry, this spirit of apprenticeship, which is totally foundational to the yogic practice method. But we have to have the faith or the confidence, oh, this is something worthwhile. This is something that's aiming towards harmony. That's all it's aiming towards. Harmonization, balance, integration. And there are English songs that aim in this direction. There are Spanish songs, French songs, whatever. So we can sing kirtan in many different languages. And what emerges depends very much on the context. I don't know, did I answer the question at all, Charlie?
You did.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
But I would say, if you feel, oh, I'm not sure about this Sanskrit, Sanskrit is the very well-made language. It works with sound. It works with the sound as the building blocks of existence. We live in a realm of vibration. And the sounds of Sanskrit have been codified to help invite, in the case of Sanskrit mantra that we're going to sing in kirtan, they are aiming towards the invitation of all of these, we could call them archetypal energies or deep intrinsic energies that are part of life that we can work with to bring more cohesion, more harmony, bring us more into rhythm with ourselves. And if we have that confidence, then we can begin to apprentice ourselves to the meaning. Because also, if somebody asks me about what does this mantra mean, it's like, well, we could spend hours exploring particular mantra because they're associated with stories, with archetypes. And so they are means of encoding so much practical teaching. Some of the mantras that we sing, for example, they're encoding many of the principles that are then set forth in texts like the Yoga Sutra and the Bhagavad Gita and in the Upanishads and in the Puranas. All of these ways that the teachings get elaborated, they are condensed and distilled in these forms that we can sing. And when we sing or recite them, we invoke and invite them more in ourselves. So if a person's curious, like, just come along and try, and experience it. You can just bathe in the sound, see how that feels like. And if you feel like, yeah, I want to get into this bath, then you just allow yourself to get in and sing and see how that feels. And this is yoga is always practical, so practice it and see. And I don't know anybody who's practiced it and not had a good result.
Well, I'm really looking forward to singing with you in March.
Me
And
too, Charlie. Yeah.
Group, that will be wonderful. And probably I learn a new song with you every time, so I'll probably come away with something else.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be lovely to sing together.
Wonderful. Well, we'll see you March 15th.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Thank you.